Hey everyone, today we're going to be taking a look at a bike I've had my eye on for a while now, the RSD Sergeant V5. If you've watched this channel before, you know I'm a big fan of versatility, and this bike right here might be the most versatile I've ever seen. So this is the Sergeant, and this is version 5. It just came out, and what makes this bike so unique is that it can run 4 different tire setups, basically. You can run a normal 29er, like right now, you know, I'm running a 29 by 2.6 on it. You can also get it with a 27.5 by 2.8, or it can run a 3-inch on it as well. But then the part that really has my heart is it can also run 29 plus, full plus, so 3-inch tire, as well as a 27.5 by 4. If you're gonna run that 4-inch tire, they do say it's on a 50mm rim, so it's gonna bring that tire profile in a little bit. But still, if you want a fat bike light, not a plus bike, but you know, a lighter version of a fat bike that's gonna get you onto some snow trails still and do well, I think this is a really cool bike for it. This V5 has done some cool things. He's shortened up the chainstays, so you can run it from a 430 all the way up to a 445. It's got those same adjustable chainstays that I have on the RSD Mayor. It's got a 65.5 degree head tube angle, 74 degree seat tube angle, and then up front it's running a 140 mil fork. This is bigger than I typically like to ride. 140, I don't know the last time I ran a 140. I've run 130, 120, 100. You know, shorter travel stuff I'm a big fan of. So this will be fun to test out, have a little bit of a rowdier bike, but I think that 140 kind of suits it in your, you know, bruiser type bike. My build is a little bit different than what is spec'd on the website. It's got an NX11 speed on the back. This is just due to some of the shortages that are going on. I think it normally comes with a Dior 12 speed, which I would actually prefer. I prefer Shimano drivetrains over SRAM, just my opinion. It's running level T brakes, and mine actually didn't come with the dropper. You could get it with or without the dropper. So I stole this off of my Mayor because I did. I wanted to give this bike a proper review, and I wasn't going to be able to do that without a dropper post on it. So the 29-inch wheel set that you get is the Duroc 40s. It's not the highest end wheel set out there, but you know, it gets the job done. It's durable, and that's wide enough to be able to run up to a 3-inch tire. It might be a little narrow for some people's preferences. You might want to run an I-45 or something like that, but I think a 40 is totally fine. If you get the 27.5 version, it's going to come with 50, the Duroc 50s. It's better suited to a 2.8 or 3-inch, but then also you can throw that 4-inch tire on there and it'll work just fine. Well, it looks like a storm is coming in, so I'm gonna ride while I can and get a good test in. It is finally just, this dirt is dry, which is amazing. And look at that, it was wet underneath. But I haven't ridden on mostly dry dirt in 5 months. So I'm excited. Let's get out on this bike and see how it rides. This is just going to be a first impression, and I will do a longer term review later. Holy cow, this feels so good to be on dirt. Actually, last time, this is the exact trail I rode up, but I was on the Corvus Skookum. Been riding that. You can go check out my first review of that and my first impressions. And you know what? I gotta raise the seat post. I really have not ridden this at all yet. So the funny thing about this bike is I actually almost bought it 2 years ago. It was the V4, right when that came out. I had put a deposit down and everything, and due to the pandemic and everything, stuff was getting pushed back, dates were. And I think the second time it got pushed back, I reached out and said, hey, can I cancel this? I need it for training. I only had a fat bike at the time, and I was trying to do these big epic rides. And so canceled it, got the Timberjack. Timberjack isn't exactly comparable. I mean, it is in some ways. It's a hardtail designed to be really versatile and everything, but not as much as this. But since then, that bike has haunted me So I'm excited to be on it, and especially to be on the new one with the shorter chainstays. That's pretty cool. That's a really good range. I found I really like chainstays that are in around the 430 length. They're short enough to be pretty maneuverable, but still long enough to be pretty stable, especially given what I ride. Obviously there's other parts of the bike and geometry that affect that, but that's generally what I found. The trails in this area, it's called Pipestone, are pretty sandy, so this will be a good place to come back with the 3-inch tires on here. Up some of these steeper climbs that are kind of slow, the front end does, you're fighting it a little bit if you're used to a steeper head tube angle and everything, shorter reach. It's wanting to wander a little bit, but it's not terrible. That's actually one thing that makes me pretty excited about this bike, is since it is spec'd with a 140, once you put on a rigid fork, even RSDs, they've got an alloy fork that's like 5'10" axle to crown, which is very tall. It brings the head tube angle down quite a bit. So it takes it down to like 67-ish, maybe a little slacker than that. But then also because the seat tube angle isn't ridiculously steep, that will get steeper as the front end comes down. But since it's starting at 74, you're only moving up to like 75. On other bikes, when they make the seat tube angle really steep, if you drop that fork axle to crown, you end up with a really steep seat tube angle that is kind of awkward. I'm gonna head back down. It's looking a little ominous and gloomy, and I'm hearing lots of rumbling from the sky. So, oh, wait, should probably hit that. Woo. Oh man. Isn't mountain biking just the best? Yeah, I think so. Right off the bat, this is a fun bike. Easy to get in the air, despite rubber side down RSD. Yeah, feels good. Once you get it at speed, it gets really stable. Woo. These brakes are not quite bedded in, so ooh, mud. Yes, this is a green trail. This is just double track, but I'm gonna hit some single track up here that'll be a little more fun. I just have to be careful because most of the black diamonds up here and the things that get a little more rocky are still snow covered. So this is good though. Pretty fun. Still get little fun sections in here and there. I'm liking this fork too. It's not just because it's longer travel, but I've never ridden DVO. I've heard they're really supple and really good performing forks. And so far that's kind of my impression. Hitting some of those rocks, some of them I'm basically intentionally hitting. Stuff like this, just trying to pop off it. It is like smooth as butter. Feels good. Oh, it's snowing. This bike has a pretty long wheelbase. I can feel it. It just isn't as jarring. Sometimes hardtails, if they're really short, going over some of these whoops and stuff, it'll feel a little jarring because you're like, whereas if it's a little bit longer, your wheels get placed differently and like that. Yeah, it's all good. I didn't feel like I was getting tossed around as much. These trails have a lot of stuff like that because they're so heavily used for dirt bikes and ATVs and side-by-sides. All right, this is where it gets fun. My brakes, they're getting bedded. Put to the test right now. Woo. Wow, I feel this bike fits me well. I'm still having a little bit of weirdness on my knees. I don't know what that is. And it's definitely about the fit. The reach is 463 for this large, but it feels a little shorter than that, surprisingly. Might be just because the stack is taller. It's in the 630s. Not paying attention. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Makes me feel like I need to scoot the seat back, but I can't. It's all the way back. So something odd there. Keep raising it a little bit, but it's gonna get to the point of too tall. Whew. Yeah, this fork is supple. Oh yeah. Confidence. Oh. Feeling good. You know what's interesting? This bike does not feel as aggressive as I was expecting. It's one of the slackest I've ridden, but as I've said before, you can't just measure it off of one measurement on the geometry. The way everything comes together really changes how it feels, and that's really true on this. For me personally, I like that. I don't want it that aggressive. I really don't ride like just what's around me. I'm not in like Moab or Sedona. There's some fun stuff out there for sure. And I could head up to like Big Sky. I've just never been a big shuttle guy. I like exploring and stuff. My general impressions of this bike are really good. It's different than I thought it was gonna be. And I was thinking about it, and that's actually a good thing. I'm gonna just take these off because the fog. It's actually a good thing. I was worried because the way RSD describes it as the Swiss Army knife. And then I looked at the geometry and I thought, you know, that might be a little too aggressive to be a Swiss Army knife, especially in the fat bike world, things like that. You can't go too modern because it's a lot slower speed, it's a lot flatter most of the time. You can get pretty rowdy on a fat bike, but it worried me, and I'm pleasantly surprised. I expected it to be more of a bear, a little bit harder to control on some of the greens, which I mostly rode greens today, and then a little blue and some cool features at the end. But it was a much better all-rounder than I was expecting. It didn't feel as slack as it is. The chainstay was about perfect. The way the rear end moved around, the way you're oriented over it felt really good all-rounder. And then there's something up with the reach or something. Maybe I've just got bad knees over the winter. Maybe they've turned into an old man. But like I said, I think that's a good thing. It makes this bike more versatile. If this is the most aggressive form you can get it in with the 29er 140 mil travel, and it feels as good of an all-rounder as it does, then that's a really good sign. That just means that when you go to swap a rigid fork on this so you can run it as a fat bike or just for fun, as rigid 29 plus is a lot of fun, it's gonna be a really fun bike. It's not gonna feel weird. That happens a lot of times when you swap from, say, you know, a 140 mil fork, and then say you threw a fork on there, a rigid fork that was meant for a 120. Even if you threw like a 110 fork on here, that changes the geometry enough to where sometimes the bike rides kind of weird. I don't think that's gonna happen with this bike. I'm really excited to have some more adventures on this bike, see what it's like in rowdier conditions, see what it's like on a long ride. So if you're interested in this bike, please go check out their website. I also have a discount code, gets you 5% off, so be sure to use that. It's starting to snow harder, so I'm gonna hurry this up. But thanks for watching today. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more about this and see my long-term review on this, the Corvus Skookum, and some of the other bikes and things that I have planned. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.